Moving on to baseball real quick, and we're here in Boston. The Red Sox are playing great. We're talking about them throughout the summer and so forth. But right now, the Oakland A's have just said that they might want to leave Oakland. They've been trying to build a new stadium in Oakland. It seems like forever. The Oakland Coliseum is just a dump. I mean, that place has been, beat up, and it was a football field and a baseball stadium when the Raiders were there, and it's just not a great stadium. All these teams have either phenomenal new stadiums, or they have classic stadiums like Fenway, or Atlanta just built a new stadium. The Yankees have a new stadium. The Nationals have an awesome stadium. Oakland's saying if we want to bring more fans in, which they have struggled to do, if we want to get more people to these games in Oakland, we need a new stadium. And I believe what happens, the Oakland City Council has still not approved it, or has been reluctant to approve that, and I think they're going to try to use taxpayer money to build the new stadium, and they haven't approved it. They haven't said yes. So Oakland's saying that we're going to look elsewhere. I don't blame Oakland, and if you want to see what happens here, if this is going to be detrimental to Oakland, go look and see what happened when the Supersonics wanted a new arena in Seattle, and see what happened then. They ended up moving out of Seattle to Oklahoma City. So we'll see what happens here. But Brandon, what do you think about the A's saying that they want to move out of Oakland?
I mean, just look even closer. Look at the Oakland Raiders, are now the Las Vegas Raiders. They wanted a new stadium as well. They wanted them to invest in a new stadium. And I think the Raiders clearly got the message that it wasn't going to come soon enough. And so they moved out of town and they moved to Las Vegas. And personally, I can't wait to go watch a game in Vegas, honestly. I think that was the right move. But I also think this is a sad move for Oakland. I mean, I love having Oakland and having Oakland franchises. So it's one of those things where I think Oakland has a big decision to make right now. We've already lost one franchise. Are we going to go ahead and lose another franchise? And you bring up a great point. The Seattle Sonics are still not even back yet. So it's one of those things where if you lose your franchise, you may never get them back. And it's another thing. Ask St. Louis. The St. Louis Rams are now the Los Angeles Rams. This happens a lot. If you don't give these teams the money and the revenue they need to build a new stadium, they just leave you and they go to a city that will help them out and will give them a new stadium. Even look locally here, the Pawtucket Paw Sox, man, that stadium was dookie, was falling apart. They said, hey, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, we need some money. We want to build a new stadium. They didn't want to do it. And for our viewers, this is the minor league team for the Boston Red Sox. Pawtucket said, hey, and Rhode Island said, we don't want to put taxpayer money into it. So they said, okay, well, guess what? We're going to Worcester and we're going to Massachusetts. And they're now the Worcester Woo Sox. And they just opened up in a brand new stadium just this week. And they're already selling tickets. So there goes your revenue, Rhode Island. Goodbye. And so it's one of those things where Oakland sadly might have this happen. Oakland might have this happen to them as well. But I think they're in a position where they have the final say. I mean, they really had a decision to make with the Raiders, and sadly they let them go. But now you have a big decision with the Oakland A's, which I think honestly has a bigger history there in Oakland, obviously, being the Oakland A's. I hope they stay. I hope they get the money to build a new stadium. I don't see it happening. So it's. Do you have any lead, Pat, on what cities might be looking to take them in?
No, I haven't seen. I think this is kind of news to everybody that Oakland's now. The A's are kind of like, okay, this is, a lot of people think this is a power move, right? The city council doesn't want to approve anything. The A's don't fill up their stadium, so they're like, why are we going to try to build a new stadium and to fill it in and have a bunch of empty seats like the Marlins? Or, the Tampa Bay Rays need a new stadium, but they don't get enough fans and so forth. Oakland's a great sports town. I mean, you see the Warriors fans are unbelievable. I know they're more in San Francisco now, but they're right there. So I think you have to question, one, are the Oakland A's fans, are some of them just going to go over and be Giants fans because it's right over there, over the bay, across the bay? What are you going to do with the A's? If you're the A's, the Raiders just moved to Vegas. Is Vegas a possibility? I mean, baseball has had the biggest problems with gambling in their sport when it comes to the Black Sox scandal, when it comes to Pete Rose, so they might be hesitant to go to Vegas. A city that I could see them moving to, and it's not that far from where they are, is Portland, Oregon, okay? And it's not a huge sports town, but you got the only team that they really have for a pro sports team is the Trail Blazers, and they have great fans in Portland for the Trail Blazers. I wonder if they would love a baseball team. Portland's this, kind of like they call it like a weird town. There's great breweries, there's great restaurants. Why not plop a baseball stadium in Portland, Oregon, and the fans don't have to go that far from Oakland up to Portland to go to a game. You spend a weekend in Portland, you go to a game, you go to some restaurants, some bars, some breweries. It can be sort of a part of the destination of going to Portland. So that's a city that I could see maybe talking about bringing Oakland in. Now, I don't know if they have a stadium that could even house, fans in the meantime when Oakland wants to move, or if they'd have to build a brand new one. Do they have the tax revenue to do that? Is there geographically a place in Portland or just outside of Portland they could do it? That's another question. But that's a city I could see maybe getting the A's if they were looking to move just not too far, just the next state north up in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, honestly, I hope they don't move. I hope it is a power play. And I guess my question too is the stadium renovatable? Like, I know it's super old, but Wrigley Field is older, Fenway Park is older, and they've renovated those fields and made them much better year after year after year. And they keep jacking up the ticket prices at both of those fields. I know that. So it's one of those things where, is that an option for them? Or is it such a big cost, that weighing it out with the new stadium would just be smarter? But I guess that's my question for them. Is the renovations possible? But yeah, it's one of those things where they got a big decision moving forward if they want to keep their franchise.